Hey guys, welcome back to this season of Talking with Our Traders. I'm the host, Cindy Edwards, and with me today, as always, is Craig Mucklow, Vice President of Trading.
Hey.
And Joey Fiesel, Head of Football here at Caesar Sportsbook.
Hello, everybody.
And congrats on the new role.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Congrats,
You
Joey.
might be regretting it soon, but we'll find
That's
out.
a badass title. Did you come up with that one, Craig?
Joey did, as he slipped me a couple of 20s.
All right, well, let's jump into some college football first. Joey, are there any teams or players that are driving significant betting action ahead of the season?
Well, we open up early spring, start getting out as many markets. It's much earlier than in years past. It's a very competitive space for who's going to be out first for season wins and everything like that. And we've kind of gone through different waves since opening. In the beginning, we saw the top of the tier. We saw a lot of Georgia Bulldogs. As we discussed last year, they are the new Alabama. Quality transfers in. You get one being Benjamin Urosek, a player that caught my eye who played for Stanford at tight end. Now you got Brock Bowers leaving, who might be the best player on the Raiders right now. Maybe Max Crosby might take that spot, but the rich get richer. So we saw a lot of Georgia Bulldogs early. Ohio State getting a lot of action as well. We should see a massive decline from Michigan as they lose everybody after their national championship. Ohio State should return to glory as possibly the king of Big Ten, even though we got some additions coming in. But they got some really good transfers. You got Will Howard from Kansas State and Quishon Judkins from Ole Miss. So they're going to be certainly stacked player-wise, as they are almost every year. But plus, and this can't really be an afterthought, they bring in a former head coach, Chip Kelly, who's going to be a Hall of Famer for college. As the offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly kind of didn't want any part of this transfer portal being that head coach. He wants to just focus on football. So we should see quite a few touchdowns being scored from Ohio State. Since then, we've kind of seen a little bit of drop-off from that action. Outside of that chalk, we've seen some action, and it's not a huge surprise, and that's the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Cowboys had a rough start to last season, losing 2 out of the first 4 games, including 1 loss to a Sun Belt team, and really struggling to win against lesser opponents. But Gundy rallied the team. They participated in the Big 12 championship game. Didn't quite get there, but they returned Ollie Gordon, Doak Walker winner, best running back last year. Alex Bowman, probably in his 10th season. But, that might be a positive as we're seeing Bo Nix kind of transfer to the NFL and playing well there. So they've been getting a lot of action on the Big 12 championship odds, as well as Ollie Gordon to winning the Heisman. And last but not least, the Colorado Stars, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders. The big video game came out. They're a big part of that, and so we've seen a lot of action on the Heisman front. Not so much on like the national championship or to win the Big 12 as we saw in years prior last year for Colorado, but there's still those 2 top stars that they're betting into heavily.
All right, okay. Are there any other significant trends you're seeing?
For college, no. I mean, obviously the big change is going to be the 12-team playoff, but we'll get into that.
We sure will.
But it's been a good off season, and we're ready to get kicked off on Saturday.
All right. You mentioned it, but how does the 12-team playoff restructure affect how you set future lines?
It's essentially an overhaul. We used to be kind of selective, kind of yes/nos on your top 25 teams, maybe some more teams outside of that top 25. But now we have every team available, every eligible team. We have a price to make the playoff, and it's going to be much different this year. The way that it's going to be structured, we're going to see the 4 conference championship bids. So they're going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll see 7 at-large bids. And one thing that really kind of adds it and why we have every eligible team is there'll be at least 1 non-Power 5 school. But the team really came together, kind of figured out this odds compilation process for how we're going to attack this playoff, and couldn't be more proud of how early we came out with this in early spring. So it's only going to be positives from us. The more games we have, the better.
Right.
I never thought you'd put Liberty as in the mix for making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Boise State, Memphis, yeah.
Yeah, it's something different that you would, in years prior, it would never happen. But
Yeah.
now one of them has to make it.
They're keeping you on your toes.
Yeah.
What teams have the most action or money to win the national championship?
So from a tickets perspective, teams are as follows: Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, and Alabama. It's the same as last year.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing these blue chip prospects from a money wise, same order except for flip Georgia and Ohio State because we took a bigger bet on Georgia. So no surprises here. The bettors are still expecting the blue chip programs to get in that national championship.
Yeah, I think the biggest liability is Oklahoma, is it?
Yeah, which the liability wise is going to be because they were longer odds. But from just how much action they're taking, it's going to be those top 5 teams.
Awesome. Let's do an early Heisman preview.
So the Heisman lists usually top heavy. Usually you see a bigger favorite like a Caleb Williams. It's not the case this year. Your favorites, co-favorites, we have Carson Beck of Georgia and Dylan Gabriel of Oregon at plus 650. Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, not far behind at plus 750 and 11-1. Quarterbacks of high power often kind of end out the list with Will Howard, Ohio State, Jackson Dart, Ole Miss, and Nico Iamaleava of Tennessee, which is kind of an interesting one because they're not really being talked about in that national championship picture. The first non-quarterback we're going to see is, like I talked about earlier, Ollie Gordon of Oklahoma State, arguably one of the best running backs, and he's going to be really utilized in that offense. So no surprises here. We're quarterback heavy. This is usually a quarterback award. The one thing that I'm excited to see is we're going to see these odds change significantly after these first couple weeks where we kind of get a feel of who is going to be the favorite because there is a lot of players right now and there's no real clear big favorite.
Awesome. Okay, which group of 5 teams is most likely to make the college football playoffs?
Well, Craig said it earlier. Liberty, top of that. Their schedule is significantly easy, and their competition in the Conference USA is not great at all. If they go in undefeated again, I expect them to get through, but their schedule might be taken into consideration. Like this isn't a great schedule where you can see your Boise State and Memphis, who are not far behind them. But they have real teams slated on their schedule. Oregon for Boise and Florida State for Memphis. So if they win those games, they should be the clear favorite of the non-Power 5 because they are the top of their respective divisions. It'll be interesting, again, how that committee reacts as we get to later year, but I'm sure we'll talk about it when we get there. Outside of those bigger favorites, Appalachian State, a team that's very familiar with upsets, is in the mix. And then Texas State Bobcats also probably have a pretty strong offense this year, and they'll have an opportunity to play spoiler come late.
Yeah, there's the 2 I looked at odds against. Utah plus 195. Cam Rising's back. Good home field advantage. They seem primed for a bounce back. And I'm reliably told the Miami Hurricanes are going to make a run this year.
Reliably told.
Yeah, this is not my pick.
You want a name drop?
No.
Can't reveal the sources.
But the Canes plus 170 to make the playoffs. So
that's not bad. Yeah.
It's not a bad shout.
All right. Can we get some hypothetical odds for the Pac-2?
Yes, the 2 misfits. The 2 teams that did not find a home after their friends left the Conference of Championships will be actually very close in odds. I have them really an average. They're both average programs. Oregon State obviously loses a lot. They were a much better program last year. We're kind of competing that Pac-12 going late. But right now I have it at 1.5 on a neutral site. They do play this season. Our look ahead is minus 4.5 Oregon State, but that's because they have a really strong home field advantage. But yeah, it's sad to see these 2 teams not finding a home. As a Mountain West fan, I'm excited that they get to play with us this season. But right now 1.5 Oregon State gets a slight edge, and I'm sure that'll change once we see these 2 teams play and how they react.
Yeah, we won't be talking about these 2 teams in January, that's for sure.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
Well, amazing. Let's switch over to now NFL. Is it just me or is this preseason dragging on?
Every preseason drags.
Yeah,
it does.
I swear, like this year, it's worse. I'm just ready for the real games. But Craig, are there any teams or players that are driving significant betting action early on?
Tickets-wise for the Super Bowl, Chiefs, 49ers, Lions, no surprise. And that's not just because you're wearing the T-shirt. The least love is the Titans, Cardinals, and Commanders, which the Commanders kind of surprised me because Daniels has looked okay in preseason. That was preseason. Handle, Chiefs, 49ers, and my Ravens. Player-wise, offensive rookie of the year, Bo Nix. Everybody seems to be drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean,
Was that right
I might be
after
drinking that
that
Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
that preseason game? You saw the rush come in, or was that prior to?
Do you think I've watched a single preseason game?
Yeah, it's been throughout.
Throughout?
That, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Everybody, I'm probably buying the Bo Nix.
But he's got a
I was kind
quarterback
of a
coach.
hater, but now
Yeah.
I feel like I have to drink as well.
Likewise. Yeah, Bo Nix, Penix, but he's a big price, 50 to 1 if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Is he likely to play this year? Who knows?
Who knows if Kirk is healthy or not?
That's
I
the
guess.
thing. It's the healthiness. Those are the biggest liabilities. I've had a sweet spot for Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs, but the minute I told Joey, he pushed the price out. So.
Well, you got to use the information you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Rookie passing leader was an interesting one the team put up, which is great. Penix 50s, but obviously Caleb Williams minus 150s, the favourite. I quite like Drake May. For passing
do
leader.
you?
He's going to start. They'll be down by 40 every single game, and they're just going to have to throw the ball.
And maybe interception leader as well.
It might be interception leader as well. So
Jameis
Fair enough.
Winston.
Fair enough. I'm going to be very quiet until
you will be very quiet all year.
I have a reason not to be. Any other trends you're noticing in the betting market?
I'd say, from the beginning of the preseason, the offseason, as we transition, the really two that the Sharps have been angling at, the Eagles and the Seahawks. Eagles had a rough second half of the season, but they're bringing in two new coordinators, hopefully for the better. We got Vic Fangio for the defensive coordinator, and Kellen Moore from the Los Angeles Chargers, and adding division rival Saquon certainly isn't going to hurt. Obviously, you're losing Jason Kelsey, a real leader. But they really, on top of that, it's kind of that the Cowboys really didn't do much, and they're it's almost like correlated where they're expecting the Cowboys to take a kind of bigger drop off, and the Eagles to kind of fill in that place. And obviously the rest, you got the Commanders, who are a new team, not expecting a lot, and the Giants look like a dumpster fire. So, and the other one is the Seahawks. They're kind of that dark horse. Mike McDonald from the Ravens takes the reins from Pete Carroll, who didn't need to get fired, but from what we're hearing is it's been a very good transition, and the team is buying in. So that's one dark horse that I am kind of buying, and we've seen not so much Super Bowl, but like your season win stuff and your NFC West. So that'll be interesting to see how that team kind of makes that change from the new coach. One that makes no sense to me, the Steelers and the Raiders were getting a lot of action as well. Both teams with quarterback identity crises, and kind of have overperformed in years prior. So that was interesting to me to see that much action. But yeah, those are kind of those four teams that outside of the Super Bowl were getting a lot of action.
Joey made an interesting point last week as well about the Ravens and the lack of love for the Ravens, which historically always performed. Very good team. But it's probably a correlation because of the defensive coordinator.
And the defense was so good last year for the Ravens. Are they going to have that same performance? Probably not. But how big of the drop-off is going to be? How big is going to be the regression? And so that's another interesting that we're going to find out soon.
Awesome. We've got some interesting markets on the app that we've noticed. Would you like to play a little game of which team will have, which team will go?
I'm always up for games.
I love games.
Which team will have the worst record in the NFL?
The New England Patriots, probably.
Ouch.
I don't have them favored in one game this year.
Not one?
Not one game. So not only that, are they in a very tough division, and you see that big separation in the AFC East where they're 28 to 1 to win that division when the Chiefs and the 49ers are around 6 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. But they're the kind of divisions they're playing this year, they're playing both the let me find it.
They've got the toughest strength of schedule.
They got the toughest strength of schedule.
And they got hosed on the short weeks, and they have the most air miles.
They have the toughest strength of schedule throughout the league?
Them in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Because I've seen a lot of Kansas City fans complaining about their schedule and their travel. I think there's like a X amount of games in 2 weeks. I don't know.
Well, if you're going to fly to every concert over Europe as well, you're adding more air miles, aren't you?
Very true. Very true.
So yeah, they're playing the NFC West and the AFC South. And the two bottom teams of that, they're playing at the Cardinals and at the Titans.
Yeah, it's on the
so
road.
that just is nothing helpful in the schedule at all. The other one that I think also could have the worst record is the Giants. I think the Giants did not have a great offseason. You lose Saquon, who was, a big part of that team. And that Daniel Jones interception might be as worse as Brett Favre when he threw that cross the body in the NFC Championship game interception.
Ugly.
Is it worse than when he was free running down the center of the field on his own and then tripped himself up to score himself a touchdown?
I think the interception might be a little worse because at least they were at goal line.
Say the Giants do have the worst record in the NFL. Their coach is gone after that, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of holding on by a
Daboll
thread.
would be gone, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what, plus 275 the Patriots, plus 525 the Panthers, 650 the Broncos.
Who are you buying?
I can't take the chalk. As much as I would love to dog on the Patriots before the season's even started, but I came down to three teams: the Vikings, the Raiders, and the Steelers. The Vikings at plus 850, no quarterback. The Raiders, 9-1, no quarterback. And the Steelers at 40s. Everything I've seen with Wilson and Fields, I think Fields has the biggest ceiling, obviously. Well, you know what Wilson's career is now. They've looked awful in preseason for what I've seen. 40-1's a bit of value. Tough schedule. The problem is Mike Tomlin is a great coach.
Yeah, you think they'll have at least a winning schedule, the Steelers? That's Mike Tomlin's thing, right?
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe not.
I looked this up last night. 17 years he's been with the Steelers.
Yeah. Never had a losing record?
I mean, if you combine those three, it comes out as plus 350. So I'll take three teams against the field.
I like
That's
it.
fair enough.
Okay, which team will go 17-0?
None of the above.
Yeah, none will.
No.
It's just too hard. And, if you get to that perfect 16 games, are you really going to go out with the starters in that final division game when that other team's going to be motivated, when you can just have that extra bye and focus on what matters, and that's the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I'm sure the Dolphins like to hear that as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's 40-1 if you want to name a team. So, like, the favourites 40-1, the Chiefs and the 49ers. It just shows how tough it is. I mean, it's tougher to go 17-0 than it is to go 0-17.
Speaking of, which team will go 0-17, if any?
I don't think so. I think it's just the NFL is just too competitive. They'll get one game, and then if you get in the later season, you're 0-12. There's a really that monkey on your back. You want to get that win. So I think it's really tough to go 0-17 and 17-0. Probably a little tougher to go 17-0 because you could just tank, I guess, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everybody will have a win come November.
I mean, in the modern era, it's happened three times. The Bucks went 0-14 in 1976. The Lions 0-16 2008, and the most recent one was the Browns 0-16 in 2017.
And that extra game might just be it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. I'd stick with my lowest teams anyway, so I'd probably the Vikings 125-1, the Raiders at 60s, the Steelers 175-1. If you must have some pride as a player if you're 0-15, but you're also tanking for draft position as well. Like, people should be playing for their jobs, but yeah, it's easier to go 0-17 than it is 17-0.
Right. Which team will be the last team to get a win?
To get a win.
To get a win.
I'm sticking with the four worst records that I had. And then I started looking for winnable home games because it's tough to win on the road regardless. And if you're a bad team, you're unlikely winning on the road unless you get a real bad team. So I looked at the Steelers at 50s was too big a price for me to turn down. I'm dogging on the Steelers as much as I do like the Steelers. The Titans, tough schedule until week 9 they get the Patriots. So that might be the last one I'm thinking. They're 6-1. I looked at the Steelers' home schedule, and it's brutal. They've got the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Jets, the Ravens, the Browns, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. That's tough. And
That is tough.
The only semi-gimme you get is the Giants. Yeah, I think it's the Steelers.
I'm gonna go chalk here. I'm gonna go Patriots. It's gonna be a long road this season. Sorry, Cindy, but
It's okay.
it's just they're
gonna be a long road for you
not
this
favored
year.
in one game. And you know what? I hope they prove me wrong because the Caesars Trader team is gonna be big Patriots fan weekend.
Every single
Every
week.
week,
Yeah.
Well, love to hear it. Do you guys think there will be a tie this season?
I'd say there will be. It's a favorited. We got a minus 280 on the site. There wasn't one last year. But that would be the exception where there wasn't one last year. The other previous years, So if you do the math, it comes out that there will be at least a tie game.
All right.
The last tie was December 4th, 2022. And there was actually 2 in that year. But then since the overtime rules have changed, there's been 7 ties out of 1,800 games, if I think correctly. Funny enough, 5 of those 7 were week 1, which was interesting. And then I decided to get really stupid. 12 missed field goals in those 7 ties.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like multiple misses as well in overtime. So, the overtime rules give you every opportunity. But first of all, you've got to get to overtime, which is probably like an 8-1 shot. And then you've got to win the game in 10 minutes. So I'm taking the no.
I just hate ties. They look ugly. They make the record look ugly.
But that's the best thing about American sports is you don't have a tie. You know?
Yeah, right.
So why have the tie?
I wonder how long until they take out the tie and they go like kind of a college sudden
Play
death
for a win.
from the red zone. Play for a win. Yeah, I wonder how long that takes. Probably need a tie to get there.
Ties are for suits. That's it.
Oh, okay. Well, those are some interesting markets that we have on the app.
Yeah, the team
Just
has done
keep
a great
adding
job.
more and more.
Yeah,
Love
a lot
it.
of them.
All right, guys. Any closing remarks as we head into the weekend?
This weekend's games, we got two FBS games. We got the Ireland game. It's going to start out the season. Florida State and Georgia Tech. We're looking at Florida State dropping down. They opened at 13. Now we're looking at around 10.5. I expect that to get a little higher by game time, Florida State. But should be a good competitive game. Obviously, Florida State, new quarterback, DJU. They had the disappointment last year. They want to get out starting well. And then SMU travels to my favorite team, the Nevada Wolfpack. We saw this game has made quite a bit of jumps. We opened this at SMU minus 21.5. It jumped all the way to 27. Now we're coming down to 24, where it's probably going to stick around. So I'm interested to see how Nevada and their new coach kind of come out. There's been lately a little bit of sharper action on Nevada. I don't see, them as SMU is a very talented team, but it's 27 points, 24 points. So should be a good way to kind of get some football this weekend and not have to rely on preseason.
Yeah, definitely check the weather in Ireland. I mean, I used to live right next door to that stadium, and it rains a lot.
Yeah, rain. All right, guys. Well, I'm happy that we're back and getting back into the swing of things. College football is back this weekend, and then we have our first NFL game Thursday, September 5th. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back every week until Super Bowl, really.
Yeah. Are we doing
Even past that.
Are we doing the Super Bowl in the stadium again this year?
We sure are going to try.
Yeah.
Travel to New Orleans.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. At the Caesars Superdome.
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
All right.